Since entering the league in 2018, Roquan Smith has been one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. So when news broke he was requesting a trade because he couldn't get an extension with the Bears, the immediate reaction among most Bears fans was, pay the man. But it's not so simple. Roquan Smith really doesn't have any leverage, and Ryan Poles is kind of smart how he's been going about this entire situation. I'm Mitchell Kaminsky, and this is the Dorm Room Dispute Podcast. Today we're going to be going over why Roquan Smith really has no leverage, and he's going about this trade all wrong. Now, Roquan Smith deserves an extension. There's no doubt about it. As I mentioned earlier, he's been one of the best linebackers in the league since being drafted in the first round by the Chicago Bears. In his last 4 seasons, Smith ranks third in the NFL in tackles with 523, and he's only getting better. Last season, he set a career high with 163 tackles, and this is coming with Khalil Mack being hurt and not a whole lot of help out the middle. Akeem Hicks missed most of the season, and so did Eddie Goldman. So Roquan Smith had to do a lot of the heavy lifting on defense. 25-year-old player, rebuilding team. This is the type of guy you want to build your defense around. And the weak side linebacker position that Smith is expected to fulfill as for the Bears under new coach Matt Eberflus's defense, it's kind of important because the Bears are shifting from a 3-4 to a 4-3 base. And Eberflus has had mainstays at the position throughout his career, from Sean Lee in Dallas to Shaquille Leonard in Indianapolis. He needs the big dog up the middle like Roquan Smith. So you put all these factors together, you'd say, paying him should be a no-brainer, right? Wrong, especially the way Roquan Smith has been going about this. So Roquan Smith released a statement saying, they refuse to negotiate in good faith. Every step of the journey has been take it or leave it. The deal they sent me is one that would be bad for myself and for the entire linebacker market if I signed it. Now, Bears general manager Ryan Poles also issued a statement in response. He said, in terms of our philosophy in the front office, I've always believed and always will that we take care of our homegrown talent. We pay them, we take care of them, and we take everyone for what they've done and what they can become in the future. And with this situation, we've showed respect from a very early time frame. With that said, there's record-setting pieces of this contract that I thought was going to show him the respect that he deserves. And obviously, that hasn't been the case. So it's pretty clear what's going on here. Roquan Smith wants to be the highest paid linebacker in the NFL. Now, the Bears have played nice to this point. They put him on the PUP list while negotiating, so he wouldn't be fined for missing practices. But at some point, things are going to get ugly. They've already taken him off the PUP list, so he's going to start getting fined for missing all these practices as he's holding out. Roquan's been reaching out to other teams. This is a big problem. First off, Roquan Smith in requesting this trade, he's going about this whole wrong way. I understand he wants to be paid, and he wants to be the highest paid linebacker in the NFL. And that is where, if you look at his statement, it's going to be bad for the whole linebacker market as a whole. As good as Roquan Smith is, he's not the best linebacker in the NFL. And he shouldn't be paid that way either, especially for the Chicago Bears. Who is your best player right now? Justin Fields. Who are you building the franchise around? Justin Fields. You want to surround Justin Fields with as many pieces as possible. And the way Ryan Poles is going about these things right now, it's clear that he's setting it up for next offseason. They're going to have a ton of money to spend and probably a top 5 draft pick if the season goes the way most Bears fans expect it's going to go. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to spend over $100 million on a linebacker. That's not going to help Justin Fields or the quarterback position. Sure, you want Roquan Smith in the middle of your defense for years to come. He deserves the extension. He deserves to be paid a good amount. But you're not going to make Roquan Smith the highest paid linebacker in the NFL. That's just simply overpaying for him. Shaquille Leonard in Indianapolis has the highest paid contract in the NFL. He also has more tackles than Roquan Smith in the past 4 seasons. He's one of the 2 players ahead of him. And he's got more big pop plays. He's forced more fumbles, more turnovers, interceptions. He just does that more. Roquan Smith, he gets a bunch of tackles, but he doesn't have a whole lot of these big impact plays. Like forced fumbles, intercept. He had an interception last year for a touchdown. But you take that away, there's not a whole lot of pop plays from Roquan Smith. Also, you look at the leverage he has. He has no leverage. The Bears don't have to trade him right now. It's not like he's going to sit out and miss a full year of pay. And even if he does, because he's under contract for this next season, The Bears can franchise tag him. So in theory, they can keep him for a whole another 2 seasons before they have to pay him. So they don't have to trade him. Now, Roquan Smith has been reaching out to other teams. There's been a report that there's been a player on his behalf contacting other teams trying to set up a trade. The problem with that, the Bears have not given Roquan Smith permission to seek a trade. And the NFLPA came out today saying non-NFLPA certified agents contacting teams on Roquan Smith's behalf is considered tampering. So teams are not going to engage with them anymore now that this has been sent out. Also, if you're a team, why am I giving up assets, draft picks, and then having to pay $100 million for a linebacker? I don't think so. Not a whole lot of teams are going to do it. So the market's not there. Roquan has no leverage. And now he can't even reach out to other teams because he's been tampering. And I'll tell you the other big mistake Roquan Smith has made. I think the big reason he's been so hurt, because he wanted to be a Chicago Bear. He said multiple times he wanted to get an extension done. He likes playing in Chicago. It was even in his statement where he's requesting the trade. Being a linebacker for the Chicago Bears, it's like one of the best, if you're going to be a linebacker in any NFL franchise, Chicago's the place to do it. It's a city that respects defense, respects linebackers. It's like the greatest. You look at the crop of linebackers that have played here, from Butkus, Singletary, Wilbur Marshall, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs. That's where you want to play. City that respects defense and linebacker play. Okay, so he wants to be, and Roquan Smith understands this. He wants to be a Bear, but he's got no agent and he's got no representation. And I think why he's so offended from the Bears' offer when he's got no agent, all this stuff's going directly to him. So when the Bears are negotiating with him and they're saying, well, Leonard has more forced fumbles than you and more tackles than you over the past 4 seasons, that's why he's the highest paid linebacker, and we're not going to pay you what he got paid or more than that. Roquan, he's going to get offended. These guys all have egos, and when he hears it from them instead of an agent and all this stuff's going to him, it gets ugly. He's getting fed all this information that would otherwise go through an agent and he wouldn't have to hear, and it upset him. I guarantee you it upset him. When he hears he is not, from his own general manager, he's not the best linebacker in the NFL, this is why we're not going to pay you that much, that is upsetting to him. And Ryan Poles even said there was record-setting elements to the contract. I mean, the Bears do not have a great track record as a front office. But, that being said, I like what Ryan Poles has done so far. You don't want to overreact over one preseason game, but if you look at the draft picks that Ryan Poles had and some of the undrafted free agents he signed and some of the players he brought in, it looks like this guy knows what he's doing. First off, he had rave reviews coming out of Kansas City before they hired him. And you look at some of the players he brought in and how they performed in the first preseason game. Now, look, I get it's a preseason game. It's 4th stringers going up against 4th stringers, but the running back Poles drafted looked really good. The punter he got looks really good. He had an undrafted linebacker from Wisconsin, Jack Sanborn, interception, fumble recovery, I think over 5 tackles. He had a pass break. He was flying all over the field. The guys that he picked up, they look like good football players. Poles looks like he knows what he's doing. He's smart. So, Roquan wants to play hardball. He's going to do all this. Eventually, the Bears, I think how they've been going about this has been pretty reasonable to this point. He's easily replaceable. So, Roquan, you got no leverage, buddy. You got no representation. You need to get an agent first off. I think it would help if he had an agent in this scenario, but he's got no leverage. He's going about this whole thing. He deserves to be paid. He deserves to be paid like a top 5 linebacker. But if you want an extension, this is not the way to do it. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Mitchell Kaminsky of the Dorm Room Dispute podcast. Make sure to follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Like and subscribe below if you like the video. Even if you don't subscribe, and you can leave a comment saying you didn't like it. But like and subscribe below. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Dorm Room Dispute, and follow us on Twitter at Dorm Room Dispute for all of the latest episode drops, YouTube videos, and more. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week.